need a motion to certify that closed session was, the items that were discussed in closed session were those items in the enabling motion and only those items that are in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act and in section 2.23711D of the Virginia Code.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Mr. Ivers?
Yes.
Ms. Coran?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes. We have several motions out of closed session. First motion, please.
I make a motion to accept the religious exemption request as presented for student A. Second.
All those, roll call, please.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Mr. Ivers?
No.
Ms. Coran?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes. We have a second motion out of closed session.
I move that we exempt student B from Montgomery County Schools for religious reasons.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Mr. Ivers?
No.
Ms. Coran?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes. And third and final motion out of closed session.
Student C has been suspended from school and should return to school tomorrow.
Second.
Roll call, please.
I need just a moment, please.
Okay. And just clarifying, the date they should return to school is going to be the 22nd of October.
Thank you. Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Mr. Ivers?
Yes.
Ms. Coran?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes. And that concludes all the motions out of closed session. Next item on our agenda is honors, awards, and recognition, and this is where the school board honors and recognizes employees and students for outstanding success in all areas. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Brenda Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Tonight, Dr. Staten will be doing the recognitions.
Good evening, and we will now begin our honors, awards, and recognition for this evening. Jennifer Weaver, our secondary education director, will come forward to introduce the Senior of the Month.
Good evening. Tonight we have 4 wonderful representatives of our high school, and we'll start with Auburn High School. Mr. Polly's here this evening to present.
Good evening. Thank you, Ms. Weaver. Dr. Staten, Ms. Blackburn, Mr. Jones, members of the board. It's my privilege this evening to introduce to you Auburn High School's October Senior of the Month, Montana Hill. Montana is accompanied this evening by her parents, Brad and Kathy Hill, and I think her younger brother, Drew. He's there too. Montana is an example of an outstanding student who not only does superior work in all of her classes, but comes to class prepared, eager, and excited to learn more and more every day. Montana has an excellent attitude and serves as a good role model for the other students at Auburn High School. Montana is also active in a wide range of student activities, including music and athletics. Her musical talent has resulted in her earning all county and all district honors, as well as a place in the Virginia Tech Honor Band. She also makes it a priority to set aside time to serve others, participating in a mission trip to Mexico her sophomore year and volunteering at the Roanoke Rescue Mission each summer throughout her high school years. Montana plans to continue her education in college, studying environmental sciences and/or veterinary medicine, while continuing to participate in missions trips and other service activities, play tennis, and pursue her love of music. I am proud to have this fine young woman represent Auburn High School as our October Senior of the Month.
Good evening. On behalf of Blacksburg High School, we are proud to present Miss Kaylee Norton as our Senior of the Month. Kaylee is accompanied this evening by her father, Wayne, and mother, Jennifer. Sorry, would you all please come forward and be recognized? Kaylee has been a marketing student for 3 years. She has consistently performed at a high level while managing a challenging school and work schedule. Kaylee has represented BHS DECA at the national level and with her partner tied for 3rd in the nation for her work with outstanding school-based enterprise through the bare necessities at Blacksburg High School. This year, Kaylee continues her excellent time management and will again compete hopefully at the national level while working over 20 hours a week at Texas Roadhouse and Aeropostale. We are proud to present our Senior of the Month, Miss Kaylee.
Dr. Staten, Ms. Blackburn, members of the board, good evening. It is with great pride that I introduce to you Christiansburg High School's October Senior of the Month, Eric Jean Chang. Eric's parents are out of town, so he is accompanied this evening by Matthew and Belinda Jordan. Would you please come forward at this time to be recognized? Eric was chosen to represent the CHS class of 2015 this month for his incredible work ethic and unprecedented academic achievements. He started his senior year ranked at the top of his class, has won the regional science fair for 2 consecutive years, is a vital contributor to our school's music program, and a talented athlete on the soccer field. The CHS band director, Mr. David Miller, had this to say about Eric. Eric Chang is one of the most responsible and reliable young men I've ever had the opportunity to teach. He is someone who decides to do something and commits to it fully. As drum major of the marching band, I have been able to regularly rely on Eric to warm up the band, run rehearsal, motivate his peers, and lead them to success. I have great respect for him and look forward to seeing what he does with his future. Eric's efforts as drum major were rewarded this past weekend when he led our marching band to receive a rating of superior, which is the highest possible honor at the state band assessment at Pulaski County High School. We at CHS are very proud of Eric and happy to introduce him to you as our October 2014 Senior of the Month.
Ms. Blackburn, Mr. Jones, members of the board, it is with great pride that I introduce to you Eastern Montgomery High School's October Senior of the Month, Josh Cricket Howard. I won't tell you how he got his nickname Cricket. Joseph Posiask, an EMHS science teacher, had this to say about our Senior of the Month. Josh Howard is an outstanding student athlete at Eastern Montgomery High School. He excels in the classroom and leads by example. This fall, he has competed on both the football field and the golf course, all while maintaining a rigorous academic schedule. Josh manages these priorities very well and is thriving in all aspects of his life at EMHS. He has a vibrant personality, a unique sense of humor, and a tremendous respect for and kindness towards others. Josh is certainly a wonderful ambassador for our school. Josh is accompanied tonight by his father, Gordon Howard. Congratulations, Josh.
The next award is the VHSL Claudia Dotson Wells Fargo Sportsmanship, Ethics, and Integrity Award. Jennifer Weaver will come forward to introduce the presenter of this award.
I'm proud this evening that 2 of our schools are being recognized for their commitment to sportsmanship, and I'm very pleased to introduce our special guest this evening. Tom Dolan's here from the Virginia High School League. Tom serves as the assistant director of the organization, and we're proud to have him this evening.
Thank you for this opportunity, Board. I would like Mr. Kitts, Mr. Knott, and Mr. Pop, if they would join me at this time. The Claudia Dotson Sportsmanship, Ethics, and Integrity Award was renamed in 2007 to honor the memory of Claudia Dotson. A VHSL assistant director from 1971 to 2002, Claudia was the first female athletic administrator in the nation. She was a pioneer in women's high school sports, and no one did more to establish and promote standards of behavior expectations from coaches, athletes, activities, participants, students, and team followers. Presented by Wells Fargo, this award is given annually to member schools that have established and show documented proof of implementation of policies and procedures that make sportsmanship a priority and an expectation within the school and school community. We are fortunate this year to recognize 44 schools, a record number. And this year, very proud to have 2 Montgomery County schools involved for the first time. Blacksburg High School, Mr. Kitts. And for the 4th time, Eastern Montgomery High School. Very proud of these people, and also very proud of the students you just recognized. And I will tell you that many school boards around the state could take a very good look at what you do with this program, recognizing great students each month, and put that into their programs. This is an excellent night for me to be here. Thank you.
We will now take a 10-minute break so that Ms. Blackburn and the board members can congratulate tonight's award recipients.
For the board, it's 30 minutes with a maximum of 3 minutes per citizen to address the board on items of educational interest. There is a timer for the 3 minutes that's up on the screens, and it should be up on the screen in front of the speaker as well. And we ask the speakers to honor the 3 minutes, as we do have a number of people signed up this evening. And I'll begin with the first speaker, and that is Kathy Sweeney. If you will come to the podium and state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Kathy Sweeney. Okay, the next person signed up is Jeff Akers. Okay, I don't see Jeff Akers. The next person signed up is Beth Dillon. You'll state your name and address for the board, please.
My name is Beth Dillon. My address is 3168 Mudpike Road, Christiansburg, Virginia. My daughters, I have 3 daughters in the Montgomery County school system, 2 in elementary and 1 in middle school. I'm strongly against switching the time schedules. My middle schooler gets on the bus at 6:35 a.m. every morning, and I understand that there's a lot of kids that get on the bus really early in that district. I can't imagine the parents of small children getting on the bus this early. It is my opinion that it is teaching older kids that getting up early and getting to school on time teaches good work ethics and responsibility all through middle school, high school, college, and jobs. Getting up later and starting school later won't solve the older kids' problems. They will only go to bed later and sleep later. So what is it solving? They're definitely not getting more sleep. I think kids should be on a routine, which in return makes good study and work habits. So my family and I say vote no and keep the schedules the way they are. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person signed up is Angela Akers. Is Angela Akers? Okay. The next person signed up is Courtney Akers. Don't see Courtney. Next person signed up is John Black. And
hello again. My name is John Black. I live in Blacksburg with my wife, and we have 3 small children, the oldest of whom is going to be attending elementary school, going to be attending kindergarten next year. So we're very interested in the school start times, and we're very interested in the impact of the change in the start time, not only on the high school kids, but also on the elementary school kids. And we acknowledge that there is a huge body of evidence looking at the impact on the high school students, and cited both here and in the Fairfax County website. But you also have to acknowledge that, that no such large body of evidence exists for the impact on the elementary school students. And so while we would support moving the high school start times later to 8:30, given that we don't know what the impact is, or there hasn't been any studies. There hasn't been anywhere near as many studies showing the impact on the elementary school kids. We really don't know the impact on them. And so I would urge the board to consider an option that, just one option maybe among the several that will be considered in terms of the start time, to minimize the impact on the elementary school students, as long as we don't know for sure what the impact is going to be on them of switching to a much earlier start time. And so I would like to volunteer to be on the committee and constructively contribute, and see if we can find some options, just present some options, fully explained, and with all the supporting documentation to the public. Thank you very much.
thank you. The next person signed up is Luke Underwood.
Hello, my name is Luke Underwood. I'm a freshman at Christiansburg High School. I want to say I'm against the 8:30 for the high school students. Personally, I go home and work after school every day, and I know there's a lot of other high schoolers. I know businesses will adjust to those times, but the later for people to start, the later, kids get home, less study time, I don't think it's a very effective thing. Also, there are some people that they're waiting for their older brothers or sisters to get home and watch the little kids. I know when I get on the bus at 6:40, and I know in the wintertime it's cold and stuff. Imagine how it is for the little kids standing out there by themselves. We can handle it better, and because I don't know, we're older, but I think it would be harder for the little kids to do that, and it'd be harder for, more stressful for the parents to have to worry about their little ones getting off the bus, and, the older siblings not there. And again, for the kids that work every day, it would just be harder, and it's, they wouldn't, test scores, I would think, would go down. It wouldn't help me at all. I know that for sure. I'm not a straight A student, but getting home later, going to bed later, trying to study after I've, a long day at work, after school, and then, a long day at school, it wouldn't help me out at all. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes all the citizens who have signed up in advance, and at this time I'm going to open it up to the audience, and if there's anyone that would like to speak to the board, please do so now. Step forward and state your name and address. Okay, seeing none, public address is now closed. The next item on the agenda is consent items. Is there anything that does the board member want to pull to discuss under consent? We have field trips and you have a donation. And we certainly want to thank the anonymous donor for the kind donation. Hearing nothing, items are approved on consent. The next item is the personnel report. I need a motion to approve the personnel report.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the personnel report? All those in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the financial reports. I need a motion to pay the bills.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the bills as presented? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Need a motion to approve the financial summary report.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's reports, recommendations, and announcements. Turn it over to Ms. Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Throughout the school year, we provide you with presentations about important programs that exist in our schools. Tonight's focus is on school health services. The provision of a nurse at each of our schools demonstrates the board's commitment to the importance of this key support service. Tonight we have Joni Underwood, who is our school health coordinator, and two of our nurses, Lisa Nennis from KIPS and Stephanie Bean from Shawsville Middle School, who will share information about the role of nurses in our schools. And I'm going to ask Judy Diggs if she would please introduce our folks individually and introduce their program. Judy is our supervisor for student services.
Good evening, Ms. Blackburn and members of the school board. So this evening, our school nurses are going to share some facts and some specifics about our school health services. The primary purpose of the school health program is to promote the physical and emotional health of the school of our students in order to maximize their learning potential. Our school nurses play a powerful role in the educational achievement of our students by planning and implementing health services and education so that our students can come to school, stay in school, and be ready to learn. So tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing to you Joni Underwood, our school health coordinator, Lisa Nennis, who is a nurse at KIPS Elementary School, and Stephanie Bean, our nurse at Shawsville Middle School, and they are going to share details about our services and what the roles of the nurses look like at the elementary and secondary levels.
Good evening. My name is Joni Underwood, and I'm the school health coordinator. I will begin with providing you with some current statistics regarding our health services program. We currently employ 19 registered nurses who work during the student day. This includes 11 elementary nurses and 8 secondary nurses. There is a nurse in each school, including Independent Secondary with Rivendell. We have also trained over 859 faculty and staff members in CPR, first aid, diabetes, and medication since January of this current year, 2014. In the first 2 months of this school year, our nurses had over 24,000 visits to our school clinics. In addition to attending to student medical needs, the nurses completed state-mandated health screenings at the beginning of each school year. These health screenings consist of examinations of students' hearing, vision, height, weight, motor skills, and occasionally scoliosis, all which have a potential barrier to the learning. This year, we were fortunate to screen 2,388 students for vision issues, and were able to have the assistance of the Blacksburg and Christiansburg Lions Club. They brought a vision machine, referred to as a spot, that aids in giving the students a very detailed eye exam. This non-invasive exam presented results that previously could only be obtained from a visit to an eye doctor's office. This assisted us in identifying 190 students that needed glasses.
Wow.
We are also fortunate enough to partner with the Dental Aid Partners, a local organization of volunteers whose mission is to improve the dental health of all New River Valley citizens, regardless of their ability to pay. They conduct screenings in our elementary schools as a means of identifying any students in any need of acute dental care. In 2013-14 school year, they provided dental screenings in 6 of our elementary schools and found 26 cases of moderate dental decay. The Dental Aid Partners also funded the Dudley the Dinosaur curriculum for all Montgomery County School first graders, which provides nurses with curriculum resources to explain good oral hygiene to our students, and they give each student a toothbrush kit. We appreciate the assistance and support of both the Lions Club and the Dental Aid Partners of the New River Valley, and for the many volunteers they petitioned to help with our screenings. And now, you will hear from one of our elementary nurses, Lisa Nennis.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Nurse Lisa, and I'm the school nurse at Kipps Elementary School. A typical day for nurses at the elementary school begins around 8:15. I usually start the morning unlocking my filing cabinets, checking my email, and filling my cooler with ice. Once the bell rings, it is not unusual for a parent to visit the clinic to talk about a student or to drop off medication. A few students visit me as soon as they get off the bus or they're out of the cars for various ailments, including an upset stomach, headache, a bumped leg, a cut lip, a scraped knee. I have scheduled medications I give throughout the day and may have to administer up to 22 medications, all due at 8:30. I make sure I give those on time, document correctly, and give special attention to each child, even if for just a few seconds. My morning to-do list usually consists of following up with parents on issues like vaccine deficiencies, medication permission forms, or field trip questions. I often have to call a doctor's office to request records. I update records and document the administration of medication for Medicaid billing purposes. I call parents when their child's medication supply gets low or a medication is about to expire. And I receive and count medications with parents. I check the blood sugar for diabetic students and assist them with counting carbs, as well as administer their insulin while educating them on self-directing their own health care. My goal is that by the end of the school year, they will be able to do this with little or no assistance. As a nurse, I don't only give physical care, but emotional care as well. I refer upset or anxious children to our school counselor when needed. Some days I see students who are seeking comfort or attention, and I determine if I need to talk with the child, the teacher, the parent, the child's parent, or perhaps the guidance counselor. While some of the visits are more serious than others, I triage, treat, and document each visit. We have a lot of field trips, and I'm responsible for training the teachers to administer medications on these trips. I prepare the medications the day before, as well as a first aid bag for them to take on the trip. I plan and guide emergency care plans for all students and train staff to respond confidently when an emergency occurs. A school emergency may include a student with a life-threatening allergy who's been exposed to their allergen, such as a peanut, and requires an injection of epinephrine immediately, or a student with asthma who needs a nebulizer treatment. As time allows, I teach health classes at each grade level. Health classes include topics such as hand washing, cold prevention, and dental health. There are multiple teachable moments throughout the day that allow me to instruct students about minimizing the potential for spreading diseases or illnesses. I offer reminders to students such as sneeze into your elbow and wash your hands. I also take time to answer any staff-related health questions. I hesitate to say that this is a typical day. Every day is very unique. There are always unexpected issues and problems to deal with. At the end of the day, I lock everything up, wipe down the clinic, check my supplies, and leave for the day. I have lived in many states and observed many health education programs in the public school setting. Now that I'm on this side of the stethoscope of the schools, I know that our children are receiving a great benefit, and I consider it an honor to be a part of caring for each and every one of them. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Stephanie Bean, and I am the nurse at Shawsville Middle School. One of the best parts about my job as a school nurse is that each day is not like the other. Although we are still able to promote health, encouraging healing, teaching endlessly, we express those routines in a different manner every day. I arrive at my beloved school, where I'm greeted by the first task promptly as the morning medications. I check names, distribute medications, and ensure the students return to class quickly. This, in some cases, includes letting the student know that I am going to call their teacher and let them know that they are leaving my clinic so that their routine is a little bit quicker to class. At this time, I'm also greeted by students who come to school ill, injured, or even without breakfast. I take care of those students and I turn on the computer, head to the cafeteria for ice, which in my case, ice is a cure-all for everything. I put my lunch away if I have time, and I check in the office to see if there were any new faxes from doctors or doctor's orders. At this point, I'm not really sure what time it is, and I find myself responding to a variety of students needing help with sore throats, twisted ankles, fevers, wardrobe malfunctions, stomach aches, jammed fingers, bruises, coughs, hangnails, migraines, paper cuts, pick scabs, cramps, poison oak, strep throat, lice, depression, and avoidance. But you guys get the idea. I now have about 30 minutes before the real rush hour begins, which is around 11 o'clock. At this point, students come in for scheduled straight catheters, icing injured appendages, and medications, not to mention the diabetics who need assistance in counting their potential carbs before they have their lunch. Educating students on how to manage their diabetes is a priority before they reach high school. It is vital to stress that they are able to independently manage their own health care. It is also important for me to maintain HIPAA. At this point, even though it takes a little extra time, each of those students deserve that respect to have their privacy. After the students clear out of my office and only a few stragglers remain, I breathe. 11:45 is normally the time where I might find a few moments without a patient. These are the moments when I finish up my nurse's notes, which I use my chicken scratch and shorthand to remind me about each care of the students that I've instructed regarding their health care. This may also be a time that I plan to develop, review the individual student health care plans. It's now around 1 o'clock, and I seriously question if the clock is wrong. I finish all the phone calls to parents, finish the nurse's notes, collaborate with the guidance about students that need some extra care and attention, talk with their case managers about information students have shared. Sometimes kids give you a little bit more information even when you don't ask, so sometimes that's good to hand over to the case managers as well. But at this time, I also handle a continuous flow of children into the office. I also take time to teach problem solving and decision-making skills for the students that are at risk and provide information about emerging health issues to other students. At this point, I peek at the clock and it's 2 o'clock. I'm pretty sure it's wrong. Generally, the amount of traffic at this point has lessened. If a student needs to visit the clinic, it's usually for the good stuff, as nurses call, which would include blood, vomit, fevers, and injuries. It is during these times that I give in-depth instruction to students on how to care for their injuries or medical conditions. Once the bell rings for the students to go home, I shut down the computer, do a thorough wipe down of my clinic, lock up my papers, and write a to-do list for tomorrow. I make sure that all phone calls were made, charting was done, and I'm now headed home. On my way, I think about how much joy I had helping with others, and I hope that I have made an impact on their life as they have mine. This concludes our presentation, and on behalf of all of the nurses, we thank you for giving us the opportunity to share this information about our health services.
Joni, Lisa, and Stephanie, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us today. We really appreciate the contributions you make to having great school environments for our students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Having been in schools my whole career, you didn't mention everything you do completely. No, not even close. Thank you very much. That was good.
And I'm so glad that we have each and every one of you in each and every school, because I spent so many years volunteering in the offices before we had nurses. And I can only imagine. So I appreciate.
Absolutely, and I'll, on behalf of for my daughter who goes to see Nurse Sandy at Falling Branch, it seems like once every 2 or 3 weeks. Thank you guys very much. I did have just one quick question. I noticed that all three of you mentioned the diabetic issues. Have we seen an uptick, an increase in those, or are they? What are the general numbers for the amount of diabetic students that we have? Just ballpark.
At this point, we're still pulling in data, but we are looking at about averaging 50 students through the county, which has been about the average for the last 10 years.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you too. When I first came on this board 11 years ago, the numbers that you see on the slide there, it talks about the number of RNs and 11 and 8 and 1, wasn't even half that. Okay. And that was one of my main focuses when I came on the board, was working to get nurses into the budget. That was one of the biggest budget discussions we had, was trying to find money for nurses, because we had nurses, one nurse serving 3 elementary schools. We had even longer. Yeah, one for the high schools. And this was putting the district at risk. And so to see these numbers today, we've come a huge, huge way. And thank you all, and this for the different past administrators and continuing to promote. This is definitely this is a banner day for looking at this day. Thank you all for your time and your service.
Yeah, I just have to echo what Mr. Jones said. In the olden days, and we sat here as board members hearing how our staff was handling diabetic issues and all other issues that you all talked about, and it was just wrong. That was not their job. They weren't trained to do it, and it just, again, thrills me to know that we have a nurse in each building and a coordinator to make sure everything is happening. So thank you all again.
Thanks again. We appreciate you being here tonight. Our next item is the budget planning calendar. Each year at this time, we publish and discuss the budget calendar for the upcoming school year. Budgeting is a year-round process, but with the governor's release of his budget to the General Assembly in December, the process moves into the forefront of our public meetings. Katie Miano will review some of the key dates. And please note that there are 4 special meetings designated, and they're placed strategically to align with points when budget information must be finalized for public hearing or presentations to the Board of Supervisors. Again, this year, we provided an opportunity to the board to hold 1 required public hearing, and if the board desires, 1 optional public hearing in April when all the funding has been finalized. Katie will walk you through the key events in the process. Katie?
Good evening, Ms. Blackburn, Chairman Jones, members of the board. I'm here to present for approval the fiscal year 15-16 budget calendar. The calendar presented to you tonight contains important dates regarding the budget preparation process. Please note there is no information regarding actual dollars will be presented until after the governor's introduced budget on December 17th. I would like to highlight a few areas on the calendar. An initial budget request needs to be approved by February 3rd, 2015 in order for us to forward the budget to the county administration by February 6th, 2015. And then the calendar before that, the one in front of you tonight, includes 2 special dates in January 2015 for additional budget discussion and a public hearing on the proposed budget. And those dates are January 15th and January 27th. An updated budget request will be presented in April 2015 after approval of the Board of Supervisors budget and the General Assembly adjusts the second year of the biennium budget, also known as the caboose bill. The calendar before you tonight, again, includes 2 special meetings in April of 2015 for additional budget discussion and an optional public hearing. And those 2 dates are April 23rd and April 28th. And that's all I have. The regular meetings are listed as already been approved by the board. Okay.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
We went ahead and designated dates. If there are conflicts with schedules, certainly it can be discussed, but we needed to get them on the table as far as strategic placement so that you would know about where they need to be. So if after you review this, if we need to revisit, please let me or the board chair know. I would indicate to you at this point that thus far the governor has held K-12 harmless in recouping the revenue shortfall funds. There is an additional $242 million to be covered for the second year of the biennium, which would be our 15-16 school year. As I receive any additional information about the K-12 outlook, I will keep you informed. Preliminary, still the intent to keep us held harmless, but it's early, and we'll have to see how that goes.
So this is presented to this as an action, right?
Yes, it is.
So at this point, we need a motion.
Motion to approve budget is presented.
Second.
Calendar is presented.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. We have a motion and a second to approve the budget calendar as presented. Is there any discussion on the budget calendar?
Just a quick clarification question. The January 6th meeting, obviously that's when looks like we begin to start the real discussion with that. Is that, do we also have to do a reorganization every year at that time? So that meeting will be then as well? Okay.
Yeah, it's a reorganization, then you jump right into the budget.
Right, okay. Just wanted to make sure that I understood that correctly.
Any further discussion on the budget calendar? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. You have a budget calendar.
Thank you. The next item is VSBA and NSBA annual conventions. At the request of the board chair, board member attendance at conferences will be brought to the board for discussion. So I present this to you all at this point for your discussion.
And I ask that this, just from a budgetary standpoint and looking at our budget for the past couple of years, we had exceeded our travel. And I just wanted to make board members aware of that and make board members aware of the costs of attending these various conferences. The next one that's coming up is obviously the VSBA. I don't do this to discourage attendance. I just bring this up as awareness for people as we look at our budget, and there's been so much focus and discussion on our budget and keeping costs under control. So if you plan on attending, you need to let Ms. Drake know that you will be attending, and we will look at it from a budget. If it would be great in some ways if everybody could attend, because I do believe that there is some benefit from having all boards members attend and being able to socialize and fellowship outside of the normal course of board business. If you've been to the national conventions, you see a lot of boards with 100%, almost 100% attendance. So again, I just wanted to bring the facts to you so you can see where we stand as far as our budget related to conference and travel.
Question about the training that our board is going to receive. Is that part of the VSBA official training like this is with?
It is their training program for boards.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, next item. Any further discussion on? I just wanted to bring this to your attention. Next item.
Next item is Board of Supervisors liaisons. At the last county liaison meeting, it was suggested that the vice chairs of both the school board and the Board of Supervisors attend the county school board liaison meetings. As the attendees for these meetings for the school board are approved during the annual reorganization meeting, the board must approve the vice chair to attend the meeting as a committee appointment, and that in this instance is Mr. Ivers.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
What exactly does that entail and when?
They're usually at the beginning of the month, somewhere in the first week of the month. They've been on a Thursday. We try to have them on Thursday afternoons at about 4:30, 5 o'clock. The two chairs and the two administrators will decide if there's enough content, to have a meeting. Sometimes the schedules don't necessarily work out with trying to get everyone there. And I think I left a copy of the minutes of the last meeting, or asked that they be placed at the dais. It basically covers the same topics related to budget, related to capital improvement. Those are the two central topics mainly discussed.
Yes, we confer about the agenda before
Right.
the meeting. The
And you
board,
get a copy.
the board chairs and vice chairs of both organizations are asked if they have agenda items. And the county manager and I do likewise.
It concerns me that there's no set date for this.
I can give you a set date, yes. I've got the calendar. They're the second Thursday or the third Thursday. I just don't remember off the top of my head, but I can certainly provide you with the calendar.
So this is essentially in addition to what we already have, correct? So Mr. Jones is still going to be attending?
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Which I believe is an excellent idea, having been the board chair, having the vice chairs there, I think is a great idea. I don't know why someone didn't think about it before.
Well, the Board of Supervisors are doing it now, even though that they decided not to have one of their a liaison to attend our meetings. They no longer have that, as I understand it. They
Trust us.
I'm sorry. I thought that was important that they have someone attend our meetings, but I guess they decided it wasn't.
So this will be a meeting now of 6 people, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And, if the chair can't attend, then you've got the vice chair there representing the board.
Right.
It's kind of, what it is also too, is that you've got some flexibility if the chair of this Board of Supervisors can attend and your vice chair there, so you can still have the meeting.
Very good.
So it allows the meetings to continue to occur.
And it's 2 more heads.
Right.
I mean, when I was chair, it would have been a good idea. Just leave it at that.
So we need do we have a motion?
My major concern would be the time constraints. I really need to know when this is.
Well,
and that.
okay, we can get that information
Sure.
to you. So, did I hear a motion?
We
I'm
have a
sorry.
motion and we have a second also.
And a
Good.
discussion.
In discussion, so at this point, I'm going to ask if all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is the January organizational meeting date. The school board must annually set the date for the first meeting in January when the board's reorganization meeting will be held. At this meeting, the board schedule for the calendar year will be determined. The school board will be asked to set a date for the first meeting in January 2015. Traditionally, it's the first Tuesday, and that this year happens to be January the 6th, 2015. For your action this evening.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Anybody have a conflict with that?
That's the day before students will go back until the 7th, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
I'm just going to refer to what Ms. Franklin has said before. I don't believe there's any conflict in that, but it's 3 months down the road, 2 months down the road. But I think usually Tuesday nights are all set aside anyway.
Right.
And if I recall, in the last couple of years, the administration has asked to move that so that you all don't have to have a long night before you go back to school? Or is that not an issue?
Yeah, I do remember that too. I thought
Mhm.
it's like trying to reopen schools after the break, but do you recall it?
I don't believe it's an issue. I know we have moved it sometimes because the first Tuesday was like the 2nd of January or something. People were still on holiday. But at this point, staff and I have looked at the January 6th date and believe that we can support that. We have to do a lot of prep before we go on winter break because we don't come back and just have a day or two before your meeting.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Did I have a motion on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. You looked at me like I didn't have one.
Our next item is a grant proposal, MCPS Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports, PBIS Program Continuation. Ms. Franklin asked that this item be pulled from the consent agenda at your October 7th meeting and brought back for discussion in the regular agenda. Additional information about PBIS, Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports, has been provided as a part of this item and in your board update last Friday. Staff and I are prepared to answer questions that you may have regarding PBIS, and I have Laura Williams, our grant writer, and Sharon Zuckerwar here to assist in that process.
Okay, so my big concern, as I've said several times, is the cultural component to this. So I just need to know how that actually works with this program.
Good evening. To answer your question, I think it's very important for us to keep this in front of us. And I shared some information about cultural equity. I believe that you received some of that information. And I think the big picture of this, of PBIS, is really marrying effective instruction, which is what we use to address closing the achievement gap. And we're also marrying that with behavior expectations. And so it is a way for schools to be very intentional about coming together and thinking about what are we doing in the classroom instructionally, and then how are we also addressing all of the expectations in our classrooms. And so my experience has been, it's been an opportunity for schools to really be intentional about looking at their data so that they can address any disproportionality that might exist with discipline, but then also look at their day-to-day practices and make sure that all of our students are represented well and that all of our teachers are responding in ways that we should be responding, as well as addressing any policy issues. So it really is an opportunity for our schools and as a division to address how our effective instruction gets married with our behavior expectations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My only question would be, are there measurements for what you had just said?
Yes, we're looking, well, of course, academic achievement is one. So we're looking at kind of a triangle of our universal, our what we call tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So, you know, where we want all of our students to be able to be successful with our academic achievement. But then we're also looking at behavior data with regards to office referrals. So for how students are being referred to the office for what kind of offenses. So we're tracking that data, and we're looking at everything related to that. Who's being referred, who is doing the referring, what time of day, what kind of offenses. And so we can really, as a team, the PBIS team comes together and looks at that data and says, oh, here are the issues that we're having. They're coming out of, you know, this grade at this time of day, and then we can address specifically what are those issues. So it's a way for us to really target our behavior, our work around behavior and our expectations and consistency across the building. Instead of just assuming that we have problems, we're going to use that behavior data to really target our efforts.
When I asked for measurements, wow, thank you. That's wonderful.
It's using the data we have, and it makes us be intentional about targeting our efforts.
Absolutely great.
So.
Okay, you triggered something when you said to look to see if you have a problem. Okay, so if it's a problem that's not norm to the teacher or to the administrators, but it is culturally to a student, then how exactly do you address that?
I think that has to come down to the school culture and the school climate, and making sure that all of our students are represented in that culture and that climate. It's not a one-size-fits-all, but it is a way for us to be use our efforts and use our resources very, very effectively. So I can't speak to a specific incident that you're talking about, but the fact that we have the opportunity to bring a team together from a building who is going to sit down and look at data and look at any issues, so if any kind of cultural issue comes up, that is something that the team can be very intentional about addressing.
So how's the team being trained to understand what a cultural issue might be?
Well, I think that's a part of our work, you know, and the grant that was in front of you 2 weeks ago is a continuation grant that was actually we began this working with several schools last year. One of the pieces that we do in this readiness is a book study called The Power of Our Words, where teachers and administrators are really analyzing the words that we use with students and being very intentional about making sure that we are recognizing the things that we should be saying more and the things that we should be saying less. And so some of that is included in the readiness training. And I think if we are very intentional about keeping a lot of the social justice work that we've been trying to do over the last few years a part of this big picture, that's where I really see the power of us moving this forward, because it's going to be embedded. It's not going to be an activity that's done, but it's going to be embedded in the work that we're doing every day.
So,
Thank you.
when we talk about cultural issues, what are we talking about? The respecting the culture, or the diversity of the many students that we may have within that classroom and within that school? You
I
know,
believe-
I mean, if, like an Asian culture of a kid is a demonstration based on his upbringing because of his descent is Asian. Is that what we're understanding and
Yes.
respecting that culture?
Yes, or
Okay.
African American,
Or
Latino, whatever,
Indian.
whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make
May
sure that
not
we're.
be, you know,
Huh?
it may not be the norm for the majority culture,
Right.
but it is acceptable to that child and that child's family and their community,
Mhm.
and that the child is not being, one, disciplined, and the other being respected for this is who they are, you know. As long as they're not being disruptive in the classrooms and things like that. But for example, talking loudly may be perfectly fine with some cultures, and in other cultures it's very shunned. Therefore, a kid may be constantly punished for talking loudly when that's just the way they communicate in their culture.
I think to respond to that, when we talk about our model for effective instruction, one of our wedges on that model is relationships. And I believe that all of us in curriculum and instruction start with relationships, and that is getting to know the student and their cultural norms and making sure that we understand each other. I think so many things can be resolved with building that relationship, knowing the student, knowing the families, knowing where they're coming from, is a huge part of our work. With power of our words, with community building in the classrooms, all of that is where we have to universally create environments where every student can be successful, both academically and behaviorally.
Do we have any idea, and I don't know if this is for you or for Joe, how many different countries our students represent? That would be that just, I mean, I don't know if anybody else wants.
I don't-
Really be
yeah.
interesting.
We can give you that information. It's in our data system, but I don't have it right
That
in front
would
of
really
me.
be fascinating.
How often do you guys meet together and discuss these issues?
This grant is for a readiness, and so currently, this is in our, PBIS is in our 6-year plan. So we have several schools who have begun the process, who started years ago. Many of them meet monthly.
Okay.
For this readiness grant, we would meet 4 times, and we would work with the school committees 4 different times on the issues that were listed in the grant proposal.
I see the 6 schools that are here. How many schools are already participating?
4,
4. So this would take us up to 10.
correct.
What was the criteria for selecting these particular schools?
These schools were selected, if you'll notice, most of them are elementary schools. Those are the 4 additional elementary schools who had not participated in readiness up to this point. CMS is a middle school, so moving in, Auburn Middle School has already started the process, and so CMS being the second middle school to come on board. And then Eastern Montgomery has just had a lot of turnover in their committee, and so we wanted the opportunity to kind of bring them back together. A lot of folks have left their committee and moved to different positions within the division or outside the division, so starting them over.
I would share that 61 of the 132 school divisions in Virginia participate in PBIS, and the state sets aside $1 million a year to fund and support the training for these programs. And just recently, the state has just received a $3.5 million grant from the federal government to expand the positive behavioral interventions and support program to an additional 45 school divisions. So in a very short term, we're going to have over 100 school divisions in Virginia that are working with this model. So I think that is, to some extent, also a testament to the fact that it's getting positive results in establishing school climates that are productive for all of our students.
Do we need a motion on this?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Is there one?
No, I don't think there is.
I move that we accept the grant proposal for the PBIS support program continuation.
Second.
Discussion, which we've already had. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Your grant proposal is approved.
The next item is regarding the committee to take a look at school start times. The school board has had an opportunity to review the research and hold discussions about the impact of school start times. The research indicates a later start time has a significant positive impact on student achievement for adolescents. At the October 7th meeting, the school board approved a resolution supporting evaluation of school start time options for secondary students beginning after 8:30 and for elementary students beginning after 7:40. This evening, I provided you as information my plan for approaching and responding to the resolution. It includes a committee of the superintendent, which has broad-based membership, meetings that are scheduled and open to the public attendance, survey opportunities for stakeholder groups, a public hearing opportunity for the board, which should be scheduled in January, and finally, a recommendation to the school board for information either on February the 3rd and action on February the 17th. I did speak with Mr. King regarding whether you needed to actually approve something to advertise for a public hearing, and you do not. You may hold a public hearing on anything you want to, or a public forum. This one is not required by law, therefore it's not required to conform to the statutory language for notice. It is not governed by that. So I wanted you to know how I was planning to move forward with the resolution.
And this is presented to us tonight as informational only. There's no action.
It would not come back as action. I just wanted you to know how I was moving forward to implement your resolution.
Okay.
Okay. The action that the board would take or may take on February the 17th, I know that's one date I will not be here. And as painful as it might be, I'd still like to be here to be a part of that decision. I would just like to be at the meeting where that action was taken.
So the composition of this superintendent's committee is 31 people. Is that the number?
That's the number that I've identified, because I do know that to get broad representation, you automatically have 4 parents because of the 4 geographic areas of the county, and the representation from elementary and secondary schools, some representation from our child care agencies out in the community, as well as health organizations. So if I start out with 32, then I've also got a margin of error because it takes 16 to have a quorum for that committee. And so I have a little leeway there to have enough people to actually work with me and make some decisions. It's very hard to get a group of 30 people together. It's also very hard to get a group of 7 together sometimes. We've faced that challenge ourselves this year. So I feel that that number is manageable, especially in light of the fact that there may be some meetings at which not everyone's in attendance.
And the advisory committee would be for information, advice, and
I have transportation, both Rebecca and Eddie, as advisory to that committee.
They would not be a voting part of the committee?
That is correct.
Okay.
I'd just like to make a couple comments in the thinking about moving forward this process. You know, after the meeting last time when we discussed it, I was going to work the next morning, and I just kind of was looking around because it was right about the time elementary students were standing out for the bus. And I wanted to go back and take a picture, but I thought, well, I don't know if it's legal to do, so I didn't. But as I was on my way to work, there was an elementary student sitting on the ground at the street sign in the road. And that kind of, and it was light. Can you imagine at 6:33? Because elementary students don't think about that kind of stuff. You know, and those are things I think everybody needs to think about. And it's not a matter of they'll survive the time change or it's best for older kids because they get an hour's more sleep and this and that. The time, looking at it, 7:40. But I've talked to, I don't know how many students in the Shawsville and Auburn strands that their children will be getting on the bus at 6:33, 6:35. 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds. I just think everybody needs to take a long, hard look at that because that's a scary thing. And this morning when I was going to work, there were 2 students, and they were waiting on the bus, and it was a side street that kind of went off the main road, but they were just dancing around right in the middle of the street. You know, and I'm just thinking, dark, 6:30, wow, that's, to me, that's a recipe for disaster. But just please, everybody, put that in the back of their mind and think about it before they make that decision.
My question is, Ms. Franklin's not going to be here for the potential vote. And I'm making the assumption that she would like to be here.
That's what I said, yes.
So, I don't know what more information we need on this. And I'd like to make a motion that we approve this.
We don't have to do that. It's not a problem. It's the superintendent's committee. She's telling us what she's going to do.
Okay,
There's no
so it's
action.
not going to come up for a vote at all?
Not yet. Right?
I would bring you back a recommendation from the committee, and you would vote on the recommendation
okay.
or recommendations that come out of the committee.
I thought we had to approve this, I'm sorry.
So the only thing at this point we need to discuss is possibly moving that date to accommodate Ms. Franklin. So I'm fine. I mean,
Action date, yeah.
yeah, the timing of it, I guess my question would be, how soon do we actually need to make that choice in order to, if we were to make a change, implement it?
We need to do it as soon as we can, but we don't need to do it hastily because we need to take the time that we need to process the information and bring you good recommendations. There are a number of special meetings, and I don't have the budget calendar in front of me, but I don't remember if there was one in the February timeframe. You could put this as an agenda item on one of those meetings as well if the board chose to do that. The other option is that I would have to delay and bring it back to you for probably the first meeting in March, because I don't think that we'll be ready by the last meeting in in January.
Right, so February 17th would be the second February meeting, so if we postponed it essentially 2 weeks to the beginning of March, would that be accommodating to everyone as far as we know?
The other thing that, if I could get maybe the information item at one of those special meetings in January, then possibly we could do the action at the first meeting in February. I'll go back and look, and we're going to, solicit folks to be a part of the committee starting this week after the board's discussion this evening. So if I could expedite it to have the action item at the first February meeting, that would be another option also.
How do we solicit participation in the community for such a thing?
We basically work through the schools with people who are in leadership positions. We look for parents who are willing and able. We look for people who might bring specific areas of expertise.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Comments or questions? This is how the superintendent is moving forward. Okay. Next item on our agenda is unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business by school board member? Hearing none. Any items of new business by school board member?
I have one, well, it's kind of new and old. It's the block scheduling at our middle school. we've had a year with that. So I'd like to see a survey to see exactly how that's going. And as far as the climate in the buildings and with the parents and students.
We did one last year, and we were planning to do it again this year about the same time. We were going to do the high schools as well this year because they have some scheduling modifications as well. So it is our plan to administer those again this year.
Any other items? I have one I'd like to bring up to the board, and wanted to share with the board. And my travel schedule obviously has impacted what we've been doing over the past couple of months. I will not be at the first November 4th meeting. I will be at the second one. I probably will not be at the December 1st meeting. Of course, as chair serves at the pleasure of the board, and if it's we've been, Joe has been filling in as vice chair, but if we think that it would be better for me to relinquish the gavel and chair position to the vice chair for the remainder of the 4 meetings, I'll be willing to do so and open that up for discussion with the board. What the process would be is I would relinquish the chair position to the vice chair, and at your next meeting on the 4th of November, you would elect a vice chair. I would continue to participate, obviously, as a board member, but I wanted to let the board know what my travel schedule is going to be. We have 4 more meetings left. You can continue to do it. I will be missing at least 2 of those. So I open it up to comment, questions on what direction you would like to go.
Well,
And
actually, if we move as we usually do, there will only be 3 meetings for the remainder of the year. 2 in November, and we typically only have 1 in December unless it's needed. So, I am perfectly fine with things the way they are.
Okay.
Me too. I guess we have to ask, how does Mr. Ivers feel about this transitioning?
Not to put you on the spot, Joe, but I mean,
he's filled in a lot.
He's filled in a lot, obviously, and done an excellent job filling in. I just wanted to make sure the board is aware of what my schedule is going to be, and if we think it, sometimes you're right, I forgot we do cancel the second meeting in December. And I just wanted to put that out there. I know we're getting ready to reorganize in January, and, if the board is patient enough and wants to work through the next 3 meetings, and that's fine by me.
Yeah, at this point, I don't see a need to change for the next few meetings. It may be something for us to revisit at that meeting in January, because you may.
I will tell you now that in the reorganization meeting that it's my last year, and I think it would be appropriate for someone else to take the leadership role, because at this point, I'm not sure what my position is as far as running for another term.
Okay.
So I can tell you that in the reorganization meeting in January, I would let someone else needs to take this position and start to learn this position.
Okay.
I've done it enough. Okay. So that's my feeling as far as the January meeting. I'll be more. It's time for me to be able to make motions. Right.
Right.
Chair doesn't have as much power as you think the chair does. Okay.
Yeah. If someone asks my thoughts are this. It's nice to get board input, but it's strictly your decision.
Yeah.
And regardless of what we say as a board, it's your decision.
And I'll continue to serve at the pleasure of the board. I just wanted to bring that up because I know my travel schedule has impacted it, and it's unfortunate that it has. I can't guarantee where I'm going to be, but I just want to let you know. If you want to continue as is, I'll continue to do what I need to do and communicate as I need to communicate.
I will say too, I appreciate you being willing to do that. I mean, that's recognizing it and actually doing something about it is honorable, and I appreciate that.
Should have done it sooner, quite honestly, but I just didn't know.
you weren't here to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Any other items of new business? Announcements and information. Hearing no announcements there. Upcoming school board meeting. November 4th and November 18th. And you do have one, I'm sorry, October 28th. You do have a meeting with the Board of Supervisors. Unfortunately, won't be able to attend that, but I'll have you in my thoughts as you have that meeting.
Do we need to make a decision about the December meeting at this point, or how soon do we need to make a decision about
You
that
do that
second?
the 1st of December, because sometimes it depends on administration and their.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just curious, since we
Yeah.
look how far we're at.
Yeah, I would like to work that with administration, just to make sure that's acceptable.
Staff and I had looked at it, and this year it's like the 16th of December, which is much earlier than it usually is. So I had not planned not to have that meeting, so it still remains at the pleasure of the board whether you want to cancel it or not. But I do have agenda prep for that meeting and had not thought it would be canceled because it's so early.
Right.
But you can cancel it.
Well, yeah, I guess waiting till December 2nd, and maybe part of that meeting might need to be where we are with the school start times. You may need some updates on that. So, yeah, I was just curious.
Okay. Need a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We adjourn. Thank you all.
That's hot.